dudes and dudettes, how are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to Cinema Chats, the segment on this channel where I review the movies that I watch, from all different eras, old or new, good or bad, This is my way of expressing my opinions about different movies that I consume, and I'm really excited for today's review because it's one that I did, a few years ago, but I want to remake it because back then my videos were different here on YouTube, and now because I've been very happy with the way that I've been formatting my stuff here, my recording, my editing, my clips and stuff, I wanted to do this movie again, okay? So it is, of course, the title already gave it away, I'm sure, Coach Carter, okay, originally released back in 2005 and starring the indomitable Samuel L. Jackson, directed by this guy called Thomas Carter, who, by the way, has no relation at all to the movie itself, or the real life coach whose name is Ken Carter, it's just a crazy coincidence, and it is based on something that actually happened way back in 1999 with the titular coach Ken Carter, who actually really did suspend his high school basketball team from playing because of poor academic results, So everything that you see in the movie is a very loose adaptation of what actually happened in real life with a few more dramatic twists, And yes, there really was a real Richmond high school. What you see in the movie is actually what happened, and it is a freaking timeless classic, man. I love this movie so much, man. It's one of my favorite movies ever, be it sports related or otherwise, and I would probably go on to say that it is the best movie Samuel Jackson has ever done because he isn't afraid to explore different genres, and he really has a very strong resume in his career, but it's always his more realistic and down-to-earth relatable movies like Coach Carter that somehow attracts me a lot more, and because I'm a huge fan of basketball, and this movie was actually kind of like a key cornerstone, it was one of the reasons that that I grew to like basketball, so it was a cornerstone in my journey there to becoming a fan of the NBA, and it originally had a budget of $30 million but grossed $76.7 million, so I think a lot of people agree with me on this one here, that it's a very popular movie, and it's just a very interesting coming-of-age story, about a coach who gets to a new school and he's very uptight, he's one of those upper class guys who, he has a very, critical line of thinking where academics always comes first, and he wants his students to become very successful in life outside of the court, he does go on to say at one point in the movie that when it comes to student athletes, student comes first, so he embraces this mentality and tries to implement it with the boys, who of course initially don't like him, but very gradually and strongly they start to build a very firm bond, and I think that the movie was really well cast, of course, Channing Tatum as always is the black sheep because I don't like Channing Tatum. I know I've made this clear in other videos, but I just don't know, man. The guy's acting doesn't really convince me, He seems to always be like a freaking block of wood whenever I see him act. It's always the same character. It's like back when Kirsten Stewart was starting her career, and exploding with the Twilight movies, it just seemed like there was no essence there. But Channing Tatum hasn't changed at all, I'm sorry for throwing shade at the guy, but come on, let's be real. This guy gets a lot of parts in Hollywood because he's buff, right? But anyways, so aside from just Channing Tatum, the cast was pretty well, put together, I really love the performances by particularly Samuel Jackson and the actor who plays Timo Cruz. I always forget this bastard's name. Rick Gonzalez, a minority, I always seem to forget his name. And I think I've only seen him in this movie, and I think he made a cameo in War of the Worlds. I think it was that one. I haven't really seen a lot of his works, but this to me is a very impactful performance in his career, in my opinion, although it's literally all that I have to go on. So everybody really acted well, and I love the way that the movie was structured around this turmoil in the basketball team, And before I continue and get into more details related to the plot and the overall essence, let's take a look at a clip here from the movie.
On the streets of Richmond, they fought to get by. Struggled to get out.
Good, bro.
And if they had anything left, they brought it to the court.
Your boys don't need practice, they need prison. Good afternoon, young men.
Are you some preacher, man? Cause God ain't gonna do you no good in this neighborhood.
Leave the gym.
I ain't scared of nobody, cause I'll lay you out.
I don't think so.
Teachers ain't supposed to touch students.
I'm not a teacher. I'm the new basketball coach.
Alrighty, so now let's keep going, huh? Now, here's the thing. Now, the movie opens up, you know, after a small, kind of steady first act, you know, we eventually see Coach Carter meeting the basketball team, you know, which is comprised of, you know, not just the players, but, you know, friends, buddies who have been together for a while, you know. So we have Kenyon, who's kind of like the more... He's like the smart one of the group, you know. He's doing pretty well in school. He has a girlfriend named Kyra, you know. Kyra, I'm pretty sure it's Kyra, how you pronounce her name. She's played by Ashanti. Just a fine looking mama there, man. But anyway, so he's on the way to greatness. The coach thinks he actually can play college ball, you know. And then we have, of course, Timo Cruz, who is the more, you know, challenged one of the group. Not because he's dumb, but he doesn't really take it very seriously, you know. And he's always hustling on the streets with his cousin, you know. So he's kind of like the black sheep of the group, you know, because he does like basketball, he does play well, but he's very arrogant, you know. When they first meet, he actually stands up to the coach and tries to even freaking punch him in the face, you know. That's the first introduction that we get. Then we have, of course, Junior Battle, you know, who is at odds with himself. You know, he's doing pretty badly in school, but, you know, his father died. I forgot if it's his father or his brother. I'm pretty sure it was his brother who died. Could have been his father too. Sorry, guys, this detail here eludes me, you know. So he's been struggling with personal issues, you know, and he eventually has a little spat with the coach who suspends him for a while, you know, but then he redeems himself. Then we have, of course, Jason Willis, whose nickname is Warren, right? And he's kind of like he actually reminds me a lot of Kobe Bryant, you know, not just the physical appearance, but he kind of has like this slapstick trash talking kind of thing where he's always having a sense of humor, although Kobe was an insane workaholic. But I don't know, man, something about this guy just reminds me a little bit of Kobe, you know, back when he was younger, so I really like him a lot too. Then, of course, we have Jason Lyle, who is played by Channing Tatum, you know, who's just kind of there. We don't really see too much of him outside. It's not like Step Up where we see his personal life, you know. It's just, we don't really see too much of him. He's like the only white guy. He's the only white kid who's there, you know. So when you have an all-black basketball team and there's one white kid, you know that he's literally just there for, you know, some kind of cultural appropriation or, you know, trying to pander to some, I don't know, man. But anyway, so then we also have Damian Carter, who's Coach Carter's son, who does come in later. He transfers to the school, you know, so he can play basketball for his father. And that's kind of how the movie starts, you know. At first, everybody doesn't get along with Coach Carter. He's very strict, you know. He wants to implement a dress code and making them show up to practice on time, you know. And whenever they're late, they will run a series of grueling suicides and do push-ups, you know. So it's really crazy. Jumping jacks too, I believe. So, you know, if you disrespect them, you get a lot of physical torment, you know, having to do all of these things, you know, and that's kind of what he implements there. As the movie goes on, we start to see players leave and give up, but the ones who remain start to form a bond with themselves and coach, you know. We start to see the turmoil outside of the school, and when they start to play ball, you know, Coach Carter tries to kind of implement different styles, you know. He did play at Richmond as a player. He shows us his banners there and around in the gymnasium, you know, so he tries to discipline his players more and more. And there are a few, you know, loose ends to tie up. You know, there is one point where he starts to play with them and they are playing well, but there's not a lot of teamwork. Timo gives up and eventually comes back, but has to run. I do believe it's like in the tens of thousands of suicides and push-ups, you know, and then he doesn't make it, but the players actually go and help him. They do the remaining ones for him to show that they are developing team chemistry, you know, so he gets back on the team. Unfortunately, Coach Carter eventually receives a copy of their report cards, you know, the transcripts, so they are failing in school, and that's where the movie turns. You know, we see the turning point of the main conflict, which is the lockout, you know, where he keeps the gym locked and prohibits the team from playing, which does go on to make it so they forfeit their games and take the losses until they get their scores up, you know, which of course garners a lot of criticism from the school staff, you know, the faculty, the parents, and other students, you know, the players themselves, who actually go on to do other things outside of the gym, you know, try to put their personal lives, you know, try to get themselves back on track, you know. And of course, it does result in a lot of pressure, you know. The students don't like, some of them don't really want to be tutored. Like Timo gives up again, he walks away. But then there is a turning point where we see his cousin being gunned down in front of him. And in possibly what is the strongest scene in the movie, he goes to Coach Carter's house and talks about it with his blood splattered shirt, you know, and he starts crying, begging him to get back on the team because he wants to turn his life around, you know, and he invites him in and accepts, and it's just crazy, man. You know, the movie has so many amazing layers to it, you know, the relationship between Timo and Coach Carter specifically, you know, and how hard Coach Carter is on his own son, making him dedicate himself to a really high GPA and literally earning every minute of playing time, as he says, you know, and he's kind of bullied a little bit, you know. There's a little bit of hazing from the rest of the team because he's kind of like dressed a little. He's not really dressed for the occasion. He looks like he came straight from Bel Air, and everybody else is like hood ghetto, you know. But on the court, they start to understand each other better and work together, and that ultimately strengthens their bond even more. Ooh, my God, quite a run-on sentence there, huh? Let's take a look at another clip here from the movie.
Now they have a choice.
In Richmond, you're 80% more likely to go to prison than college. This contract states that you will maintain a 2.3 grade point average, and you will wear ties on game day.
Between surviving alone
This is basketball, man.
These boys are student athletes. Student comes first.
and standing together.
If one man struggles, the entire team struggles. You have an incredible gift up here. Do you realize what an opportunity that is for you to get out of here?
Oh, man, am I enjoying this. I love this movie so much, man. I can't believe I'm talking about it again. I got another opportunity to review it. This is cool. So there is a moment where Samuel Jackson gives a very, very powerful performance, you know, which is when the team goes undefeated in the regular season, you know, with his discipline and training, and they actually go on to win a tournament, and then they go to they're in a motel, you know, I think they're there in the other city, you know, and the players actually sneak out to go to a party at a mansion, you know, where they're fooling around and drinking alcohol and screwing with girls, you know, and so eventually he finds out and goes and berates them on the bus ride home, you know, which is freaking insane because Samuel L. Jackson has always been intimidating, but in this movie here, man, you know, I actually think he did better here than in Pulp Fiction, because in Coach Carter he can be really intimidating, you know, just the authority figure, you know, the authority that he imposes on the other players, you know, and he's berating them on the bus, you know, but then Timo does make a good point where he said, look, you wanted us to be winners, you know, we're undefeated, isn't that what you wanted, coach, you know, so makes him think a little bit, but of course, you know, a little bit after that is when he finds out about the grades and all that happens, you know. There is eventually a trial, you know. I do believe it's the school board of directors, you know, who's actually voting with the faculty and other parents, you know, serving as like the jury so they can decide whether or not to continue or to end the lockout. This is where Coach Carter makes a very valid point, which honestly inspires me a lot as a teacher to motivate my own students, you know, where he actually wants them to focus more on their grades because he knows that in the community of Richmond, it's really easy for you to turn to crime, you know, and commit all of these atrocities, you know, so he wants his students to have better opportunities in life, you know, because there's really no other option in Richmond aside from turning to crime or playing sports, you know, so he wants them to have their grades up so they can try to get scholarships and try to give themselves better options in life, you know. It is very warranted, you know, but he does go on to say he gives the ultimatum that if the lockout ends, then he's gonna quit. Unfortunately, the votes outweigh the decision to not do it, so it is actually it is imposed, the lockout is ended and he quits, but he sees that his students are still there, they are refusing to play. There is a moment where they're in the gym with their desks and books studying, you know, they can you know, they can open the gym but they can't force them to play, so they are honoring their commitment to coach, you know, Coach Carter, to study and get their grades up, and that's when Timo gets up and recites a quote from A Return to Love, you know, talking about his deepest fear, you know, so yeah, man, he goes on to thank Coach Carter because he saved his life, and this is where the character development really plays out well, you know, because Timo started off as the most hesitant and arrogant one, you know, who didn't want anything to do with him. He even tried to physically assault Coach Carter, you know, so at the very end here, when he turns and almost sees him as a fatherly figure and thanks him for turning his life around, you know, it harkens back to Gridiron Gang, this movie here that I reviewed about football, with pretty much the same concept but with American football instead of basketball, you know, so really cool too. So they eventually go on to thank him, you know, and eventually, you know, as all of these layers go up and down these roller coasters, you know, there are a few side stories, you know, with Kenyon, you know, wanting to be closer to his girlfriend because she's pregnant, you know, with their baby. She does eventually go on to get the abortion with her mom, you know, which the movie kind of sweeps under the rug, you know, but it's all good. That's like, it was really resolved very quickly. The movie culminates in them playing the championship against St. Francis. I believe it was the state quarterfinals, right? So then it's actually weird because there was a very strong build up to this, you know, that is like what we were most waiting for, and then the game is pretty okay. Everybody is playing together as a team and they're outboxing them, but there are some opposing players. I do believe their opposing point or shooting guard gives them a bit of work. I think his name was Tyrone. something of the sort. I forgot that dude's name, but he was kind of like the main antagonist there. They play really well quarter to quarter. This is after the team has come back. After Junior was suspended, you know, his mom actually brings him to Coach Carter to apologize face to face, and he does. He forgives him, but he makes him run suicides and I believe do push-ups as well, but he comes back to the team. Everybody is together, everything is clicking, you know, and they are playing really well, but both sides are balanced, and ultimately Richmond loses by 2 points, you know. I believe there is a game, Junior tries to block Tyrone, you know, or Tyrese. I forgot that brother's name, but anyway, he tries to block him, but he kind of pulls like a little pump fake and shoots the shot, so they are up by 2 and the buzzer sounds. It is really sad because the movie builds this up to you thinking that they're gonna win. It's gonna be the underdog story where the team comes out from nowhere and wins, you know. But that is what I love about this movie, because it had balls to make the team lose, you know, the one that we are rooting for, the players that we were invested in, the build up to Coach Carter training them, you know, when they ultimately lose. But it's not over, because we find out that Coach is actually very proud of them. You know, he says, I came here to coach boys and you became men. That really cool end of the movie speech there, you know. The players are of course distraught, but it was very elusive. It just got away from them, you know. However, they did come together to persevere. They got their grades up and they played the game. They got to the quarterfinals, so they gave themselves much better options, you know. So the community, their friends and family are still there at the end celebrating with them despite having lost the game, you know. And the movie goes on to say that 6 players went on to college, you know, to pursue different degrees. Not all of them continued to play basketball, but at least they gave themselves a better option, you know. They proved that Richmond can graduate students, you know. I believe that in Richmond there is a very small percentage of students who actually graduate and go on to college, you know, and they were in the mass. They became the new percentage of students who went on, you know, who came from nothing, living in the ghetto, and going on to college to pursue degrees and contribute to society, which I think is a very awesome note to end on, you know. And before I continue and talk about a little bit more about the production and whatnot, let's take a look at one more clip here from the movie.
Gentlemen, we have 6 players failing at least one class. We have failed each other.
You put a lock on the gym and forced them to meet you in the library?
Coach Carter has taken the lockout to the next level by canceling last night's game, making it their first loss of the season.
Coach thinks I can play college ball. I'm gonna do that and raise a baby.
What are you saying? You want out?
I see no changes.
Basketball's the only thing that these boys have got. Now we're gonna let Carter come in here and take that away from them.
You're gonna get through this.
Okay, so some of the scenes that you guys see here in this video might be deleted scenes, you know, that didn't actually make the theatrical cut. So maybe you might see something that you didn't see in the actual movie, but that's the reason, right? So production began, you know, around mid-2004 and ended in late 2004, you know, and the movie was released a year later. A lot of it was filmed in Long Beach, California, and also in Los Angeles, and locations like St. Anthony High School Gymnasium was also used. And there's actually this version of it, you know, in 2008, the restored widescreen high definition Blu-ray disc that I really would love to have watched. I want to watch that movie in HD, you know. In total, there were 6 deleted scenes that didn't make the cut, which I am going to watch on YouTube later. And the thing is that the movie was given, like, it was, I do believe it had a Rotten Tomatoes gave it like 64%, you know, a rating there based on 150 reviews. And there's like an average rating of 6.1 out of 10. But of course, my personal rating at the end is going to be much higher than that. And the thing is that the movie it was very, very centered around Samuel Jackson's performance, you know. I love the production value, the cinematography, everything about it established us as being in this neighborhood where the students were really down on their luck and they didn't really have many options, you know. A very poor and impoverished community in a small town, and the high school really reflects that, you know. And seeing the character dynamics in the school, the student body, you know, and how the faculty seems to largely not care too much about the students graduating because they rarely ever do, and how we have a new character coming in and completely taking over that and flipping it upside down, and not only caring but striving to help the students graduate and go on to make a life for themselves outside of after high school. So I just love the way that the plot played out, you know, and the way that the movie was shot and edited. You know, the soundtrack was amazing. You know, the soundtrack by itself is really cool, which was released later on, you know, to collaborate with the film, and it actually won a few, it was nominated for and won several awards between 2005 and 2006. I'm going to read some of them for you guys here. It actually was nominated for and won the Outstanding Achievement in Directing Award for Thomas Carter, which honestly was very well deserved. He directed the hell out of that thing, you know, and he also won the award for Best Director, you know, so I mean, honestly, man, it was really well deserved. I don't really know too much about his career, the movies that he's done, but this is definitely his best one that I have seen, you know. And also Outstanding Actor in a Motion Picture for, of course, Samuel L. Jackson, you know, and it was nominated for quite a few others, but it won these three because honestly, come on, man, Samuel Jackson literally carried this movie, you know. The other actors really did well. I mean, the casting was amazing. It was really phenomenal how everybody came together, but Samuel Jackson was really the face of this movie, you know. And if it wasn't for him, if you got a different actor to play him, like, I don't know, Denzel Washington or Jamie Foxx, I'm sorry, but it would not have been the same. They don't have the amount of power and energy and impact that Samuel Jackson does in his movies, you know. I just loved it so much. And that's pretty much all I can say, you know, here, given all the cinema score and stuff, you know. So now my personal rating is, of course, you guys definitely saw this coming. It's obvious, a perfect and rounded 10 out of 10 right here, okay? There's no other rating that I could give it. If I could give it above a 10, I would, but the maximum is 10, of course, you know. Everything about this movie came together to create an amazing cinematic masterpiece, you know, and it definitely goes into my top 10 greatest movies of all time, you know, which is a list that tends to oscillate and change quite a bit as the years go by. I did record a video about this a long time ago, you know. If you guys want to watch it, go ahead. It's here, the top 10 movies of all time, but it's a little outdated, you know, and the editing is a little different than now, but hey, it's there. It took a lot of work, so you guys can go watch it, but maybe I'll remake that later, you know, because it's always changing, but the problem is that I might have to do that every year if that's the case, so never mind. Maybe I won't redo that. But anyway, so that's it, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think about Coach Carter, if you've watched it, if you liked it, you know, and if you didn't, I really have got to start saying this at the beginning, although it is pretty obvious, so I always forget. There were spoilers in this video. You gave yourself a bunch of spoilers if you had never seen Coach Carter, so there's that too to watch out for. And that's it. Essentially, that is it, okay? I'm gonna get going. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about this video, you know, and the movie itself. And if you've never seen it, I'm sorry for spoiling it, but go and watch it anyway. I think it's still on Netflix. If not, just find it somewhere else, you know. And that's it, guys. Wow, this is, if you happen to like this video, please go ahead and give it a like, and also subscribe to my channel because I release videos every single day. And while you're at it, go ahead and hit the notification bell to know exactly what time I upload. I'm gonna go because I am starving. I haven't had lunch yet. This is Chazzy signing out for now, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Roll the outro screen. Ow.
What do I gotta do to play?
Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it.
One player triumphs, we all triumph, right?
Woo!
We're gonna finish what you started, sir.
Samuel L. Jackson, Rob Brown, Ashanti.
I came to coach basketball players and you became students. I came to teach boys and you became men.
This is our time.
Coach Carter.